Hello and welcome back to our weekly chat. It is Brandon here again with you. For those who don't know me, my name is Brandon. I am the co-founder of Awesome Ninja Fitness, where I help hundreds of athletes get the strength, skills, and freedom of movement of a bodyweight skills athlete, learning awesome skills such as handstands and muscle ups. And so the main topic that I want to talk about today is the road to mastery is not pretty. What I mean by that is when you're learning something such as a muscle up, a lot of times people have this expectation of when you are learning a muscle up, you start with the muscle up. Maybe it's just because you don't know the progressions or the roads. It's almost the same expectation of, I want to paint like Picasso, so I will start with Picasso paintings. Well, maybe you don't even have the foundations of what brushes you need, brush strokes. I'm not a painter, so maybe that wasn't the best example. What I am is a movement specialist. Let's go something a little bit more awesome and more specific, such as the handstand. Now, when people say, I want to learn the handstand, they think of starting with the handstand. Now, you can, depending on where you're starting from, but most people can't start with a freestanding handstand. And that's the reason why you can't get it in the first place. Imagine how many times of the skills you just tried and it's so far out of reach that when you try it, you fail, you fall, you don't get it, and then you don't start again. So first lesson is about finding the right progressions. Where do you actually start? Second lesson, what I want to say is the journey is not pretty. When you're learning the handstand, you want to master the handstand. Yes, handstands will be part of your training, but there's going to be hours and hours and hours of training, which is not the handstand. It can be things close, such as handstand against the wall. It could be the pike handstand. It could be pike push-ups. It could be push-ups. It could be crow pose. The problem is that we think that getting the handstand also means hours in the handstand. I've coached gymnastics, especially at the provincial level of men's and women's for a very long time. And so mastering the handstand is very important. Now, the small errors that you can make as a regular handstand doer, if your hands are a little bit misplaced, your hips a little bit too open, things like that. If you're a little bit of banana, that's not a huge deal. In gymnastics, it does affect your career, especially when you're doing handstands on bars, you're swinging to handstands, you're pushing to handstands. There's so many small things that affect. But when we're learning the handstand, a lot of the times you are spending years sometimes, and if you're starting at 6 years old, of shapes, of being able to lay down on the ground, keep your body straight, laying down on the ground. And you might be doing that for a very long time. And then you're doing that with a little bit of resistance, such as you're on a box with your arms on the side or your legs on the side. And you're doing that for a very long time. You're working on flexibility for a very long time. This is, again, assuming you're starting at 6. If I was doing it with my adults, then a lot of times you're working on one piece at a time. You're starting with how to balance with your shoulders, how to balance with your hips, how to balance with your hands. Then yes, you're doing a couple of handstands here and there, but also depends on where your progression is. One of the biggest mistakes of learning the handstand is not learning how to correct the handstand. So even if you are fully working on the handstand, there are still some small things you'd still want to work on. So for example, being able how to fix it when you're falling forwards or falling backwards, because most of the time when people have a handstand, depending on what you're used to, you will do a common error. Usually you're always falling forwards or you're falling back to your feet, depending on which one it is. If you don't work on that, then just work on the hands. You're jumping up, you're hoping for the best, and you're falling forward. There's a lot of small things that need to be. So yes, when you work on a move, a lot of times you're going to have so many reps before doing the full move. Even if you are working on the full move, there are so many reps that you're going to be doing before. Yes, once you get to a certain level of mastery, what you are working on with that skill might be the skill itself. Again, such as my adults, my gymnasts, and also the many people here at Awesome Ninja Fitness within the community who have shown that they're working on the handstands. When you're able to hold it freely for 10 to 15 seconds, at that point, most of your work is going to be within the handstand, and then all the supplementary work will be on the fixing it, the strength, but also you're doing that to get better at other moves, not just the handstand. The ideal is to progress to other moves, then not just that, such as the handstand press, such as planche to handstand. There's other things that we're working on. Now, let's go in a simpler way with, let's say, weightlifting. If you want to get really good at a bench press and there's a certain number you want to get, let's say, I don't know, you want to get 2 plates on each side for the bench press. Well, you wouldn't start with that. You would start earlier, right? And most of your work would be the bench press, but you wouldn't just do the bench press, right? You would also do some other exercises for pushing exercises. You wouldn't just go to the gym do the bench press, and then that's it. Because ideally you want to set yourself up for other things. There might be other small muscles that you can work on. It's not just the chest that works on the bench press if you have other muscles that are recovered, but it's the same idea with body weight. With body weight, instead of going up in weights, you would go in different exercises. And even in the bench press idea, once, let's say you hit one plate on each side, you might progress with the really, really light ones, like the 5 pounds, the 2.5 pounds, things like that at a time. The amount of reps that you'd have to do in bench press to get to that thing is the same thing. And handstand, because it is a skill, you do need to do a lot of time in the handstand. You need to do a lot of time in order to hold it. You need to get time in the skill, and it takes a long time. It doesn't have to take a long time, but what I mean is there's a lot of exercise and things you were doing before. The journey is fun. The journey is exciting, but there's so much supplementary work if you want to get it quick, if you want to get it well, if you want to set yourself up for the future. There are so many other exercises that you have to do. And you have to be okay with starting lower, starting at a lower progression, finding a start. You want to get to 100, you don't start at 100. We're going to start at 0, then we're going to 1, and then 2, and then 3. And yes, maybe you will count faster. Maybe those numbers will go up higher and faster for you. But if you start faster, if you try to get there later, you try to get the more advanced skills as fast as possible, you are going to make mistakes and errors. I work with a coach where a lot of their athletes look like their progression very fast. They're progressing very quickly. They're getting all these handstands. They're getting round offs. They're getting back handsprings. They're getting back tucks. They're doing doubles off the trampoline in the pit, and it looked very impressive. These are young athletes, and they're progressing very, very quickly. Well, my athletes looked like they were stuck in the basics. That was about the first half of the year. Then you look at the second half of the year. Every single month, my athletes were getting better. They get a score in every single competition. And most of the time they do the same thing. Their score kept increasing. What happened with the other group? Their score was about the same. And if you had a key eye and you looked at what they were doing, you could tell that there were a lot of mistakes. For example, in a not a back handspring, in a back tuck, a back flip, freaking cool. A very common error is you want to be high enough. You don't want to jump and rotate very low to the ground. First, that's scary. Second, that's dangerous. And 3, that doesn't set yourself up well for the future. For example, there's a back tuck in which your legs stay straight, which is a back layout. Again, you wouldn't do this on the floor. You do it off height or with a pounce, which we call a round off or something. You would not be able to do that. You don't have the right set. You don't set yourself up for the right move. So then I had one athlete that started middle of the pack and became one of the best athletes in the province. Yes, Canada, the province. There is a place in order to try bigger and harder moves, just to unlock that in your mind, to let you know that it is possible and you could do it. But that's a different idea. You are trying to unlock something else in your mind, not master the skill. It's more like open the door, not build the door. So all this to say is if they just worked on a little bit of the progressions, or even if they are right now and just started to fix it by stepping back, then those athletes would be amazing. They would dominate every single competition. But now they're going to get stuck. Or you're going to make errors. A good habit is easier to create. A bad habit is hard to break. Once you have a habit, it is so difficult to break, because not only do you have to convince yourself to stop doing it because your brain has locked it in, making it automatic, meaning you don't have to think about it. Now you have to think about it to not do the thing. And then you have to think about what you want to properly do, and you don't want to get those wires crossed. And then you're trying to get the proper... It's a lot more steps. The progressions are there for a reason. If your goal is just to get one specific skill, then sure, maybe you'll get there as fast as you can, and you want to just try to fix the mistakes and the errors because you don't really want to progress. But if you want to be efficient in your training, if you actually want to be good at these moves, then you're going to have to start lower. And you're going to have to do those for a while until the quality is there. Now, you might not know what that quality is. You might not know when you're ready to move on. And there is a trial and error. There is a playing with that, unless you're working with a coach. Unless there's someone such as in our accelerator program right here in the community, where I look at your videos and break them down and let you know what you need to work on if you're ready to move on, if you're making maybe some mistakes that you don't know, that's different. But assuming you're on your own, you will do some trial and error. But easing on the air of caution of going slightly back, making sure that's mastered. There is no master who does not have the foundations. There's not a single person who has mastered an advanced skill and does not have the foundations. Just imagine someone, how could you master a handstand without mastering balancing on your hands? How can you master a handstand without mastering how to just fix the balancing? How can you master the handstand without controlling your core? Those things don't make sense. So you are never wasting your time if you're working on the foundations. You're never wasting your time if you're working on quality on a lower progression. You're not wasting your time if you make sure you do it right. You will waste your time if you try to progress too quickly. If you think that just working on the hardest move is the way to get there, where there's a time and a place, but mastering the foundations, and the road will not be pretty as long as you change your expectation. As long as the destination is where you want to get, then you're going to enjoy the process. But just know that the road that you're taking is not just cool move, cool move, cool move, cool move. It will be progressions towards those cool moves. The road will be awesome. You're going to be doing these awesome things. You're going to be working on these progressions. You're going to be doing so many other things. So just change your expectation. Just know that if you want to be a master of these moves, if you actually want to do it well, and you want to use your time as efficiently, then make sure you go on the progressions. I remember when I first started, I didn't have any coach. So that's what I did. For example, the handstand, I just keep going up and doing a handstand and working on it. The problem was I got really good at walking in the handstand because I would go up in a handstand. I would be in a very bad position. I would be falling forward, and to fix it, I would move my hands. It took so long, and I even still make these mistakes now, of being able to just hold the handstand in place. Sometimes my instinct is to walk. So I'm really good at walking in handstand, but holding the handstand, I still make these common mistakes, and I still make these mistakes even after years. And again, if I knew what I knew now, right, someone probably would have told me to either fix the position. Oh, it's not even a position. Technically, you do a handstand with banana. That's fine. We just want to do a move that will actually help with other things. We want it to be a choice, not the common. But all that to say is just to hold the handstand, which is one of the goals that I wanted to do, because I worked on the handstand so quickly without figuring out what the foundations was, what was the actual things to actually build a proper handstand. It made a lot of mistakes, and now I have to fix those mistakes. Did I like the journey? Yes, but what feels worse? Getting to the destination, realizing it's the wrong destination, having to turn back and then figure out where you actually want to go, get a new map, get a new progression, and then actually going to the place you actually want to go, or enjoy the journey so that when you get there, you're at the right place. I think I'd prefer the second one. So change your expectations. The journey is awesome. It just might be the exact thing you might be thinking of. You're never wasting your time working on the foundations. You're never wasting your time if you work on quality. And for skills, you do need to take a lot of time. Now, if you're only doing it once a week, it's going to take longer. If you do multiple times during the week or even during the day, then you will get time under your belt. So I hope that was helpful. I'm going to leave a little bit of time for questions and answers. I will be next. If you are interested in, first of all, joining the community, there should be a link somewhere. This is for everyone on social media. If you are interested in joining more calls like this and joining the Q&As and being there live when we're actually recording them, that will be down in the community. There's a link below. If you want your videos to be watched by me and working with me, you can join the Accelerator program, which you can go ahead and just join the community first, and that option will be there and you'll be able to talk to me. Anyways, you know what to do. Just got to stay awesome.